Alright, today I'm going to be talking about Edwards syndrome, which is otherwise known as Trisomy 18. This is a condition caused by a chromosomal abnormality, specifically one of the 18th chromosome. So when we look at this karyotype of someone living with Edwards syndrome, you can see that the 18th chromosome looks a little different than all the others regarding the sheer number. The 18th chromosome has 3 copies, while all the others have 2. This, by definition, is what a trisomy is, and it's caused during meiosis when both parents give their sex cells along with 23 of their chromosomes. You can see this in the second line of the diagram. This usually produces a child with half of their DNA from each parent, making that magic 46 number. But in cases like this, where there's meiotic non-disjunction, there's an abnormal amount. Either the egg or sperm cell gains an extra copy of the chromosome 18, and that's where the plus 23 comes into play. This causes, in our case, the 18th chromosome to have 3 copies rather than 2. This happens completely randomly and isn't something a child can be inherently predisposed to. On the outside, a child with Edwards syndrome is characterized by a few of these common symptoms, starting with a broad forehead and camptodactyly of finger, which means that it's a permanent flexion of the finger, or otherwise called clenched fist, which you can see that the child in the bottom left has. Another is hypothyroidism of eyes, which is a very wide set eyes, clearly marked in the child in the top right. Others span from prenatal growth deficiency to atrial and ventricle septal defects. In the atrium, the top 2 chambers of the heart, there's usually a lack of septum, meaning that the 2 chambers are completely open and turned into one large section, while the ventricle septum just has a hole in the wall and is caused by a lack of formation in utero. More superficially, children with Edwards syndrome typically have triangular faces, meaning their temporal region is wider than their chin region, and they can also have delayed cognitive function, similar to other trisomies like Down syndrome. Diagnosis. The possibility for a baby being born with Edwards syndrome can be screened for and determined at an 11 to 13 week ultrasound. Blood tests can help strengthen this suspicion. However, the only way to truly know is through genetic testing of the baby in utero. These procedures and processes are really risky and have a high rate of miscarriage, so most families opt to just use the ultrasound pictures similar to what is presented in the slide, which is a pretty good indication, as you can clearly see the clenched fist and broad forehead in these pictures. Prognosis and life outlook for babies with Edwards syndrome is not good. Most do not make it out of the first year of life. In fact, only 13% do. To worsen the prognosis, there are no known treatments or cures for the infant. Parents may ultimately decide to keep the baby alive for as long as possible in the neonatal intensive care unit, or can opt to take their child home under palliative care for a more comfortable but shorter life. Since this condition is very fatal and not very well known, there are many potential questions and concerns, both from the public and also from families who may have a member with the condition. These span 3 different genres and groups, those being ethical, social, and medical. I'm going to touch on all 3 of them, but there's many more questions out there. Ethically, my focus is going to be, since prenatal ultrasounds can detect this before birth, what should parents do? Essentially, is abortion a just and acceptable option? My opinion is that this decision needs to be made circumstantially by each family. If said family feels the loss of their child after a week or a year of life would be worse than losing it in utero, then it may be the only way to avoid the tragedy. Granted, child loss at any stage is not a good experience. Edwards syndrome does not have a happy ending, and the family ultimately has to pick the lesser of the two evils. Socially, would a child with a sibling living with this impairment experience life differently because of it? Would the constant stares and unwanted attention affect an otherwise normal family member? Yes. Even a child without an abnormality is influenced by the life of someone with said medical condition. What I mean by this is if a 7-year-old with a 3-month-old sibling who lives with Edwards syndrome goes into public and notices everyone staring, they're gonna start wondering not only why people are doing so much staring, but also may feel that there is something wrong with their sibling. And even if they didn't previously see their sibling in that way, they're going to start seeing them as disabled, as abnormal, which sends an underlying message of other people's opinion mattering more than their own. Although each sibling, each family member would have their own life, it's not completely independent of those around them. And that's why that influence of society will have an impact on that life. Medically, why do some babies make it to a full year and beyond, while many others only experience a week or two? The only answer to this is that the severity of the condition varies. And with the variety of severity comes the variety of lifespan. With any abnormality of a vital organ comes great risk, which is why some cases with larger holes of the atrial and ventricle septums is why they become fatal much sooner. If there is a lack of septum, a lack of separation between the chambers, it's going to cause a greater problem much quicker than if there is just a hole. With that, I hope I covered any questions or outlying thoughts. I also hope you learned a little bit about this lesser-known chromosomal abnormality. I hope you all have an amazing day and give a little grace to those around you.